began to recommend to me people who he thought could be great high school coaches. And so Dick Sheridan was one of them. And after I met Dick, I was determined that I was going to hire him one way or the other. And Jimmy Satterfield Jimmy Satterfield and Steve Robertson always complained to me that I didn't realize I'd done this. Just before the end of the first year, they found out that Dick, and I found out he wasn't making as much as the other two coaches, and was more, he had all the preparations and still wasn't receiving money. So I went to him and asked him if I could take part of their salary to bring Dick's up to where he was the same thing as they were making. And if you knew Steve Robertson, that was a real job right there. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me to be here, being a part of your celebration, and I'm always so glad to see Brother Willie. He's keeps me straight wherever I go. And we have some similarities. We have wonderful wives, and my best to yours. My wife is not with us tonight because she has dementia, and she's in care in Sumter, and we were going go back there tonight because dementia is a terrible disease, and I can't tell you what it is, but my wife is a wonderful person. And those of you who have come to know her would agree with me. She just always made people feel better, and always tried to do something for someone else. And she is just the same old fighter as she always was. And I can't wait to get back. You know, when we stop and think about it, people make a difference in the world. They've made a difference in my life. Robbie Caldwell, I can remember Robbie Caldwell. I was coaching him, and I see some of his teammates out there. I can't tell you what a thrill it is to see those fellas again. Anyway, we would have meetings and have tests and evaluate our players when we were at Furman. And so at one of the meetings, Robbie's name came up, and Robbie, a little hefty, and his name came up, and several coaches said he's too slow. And so anyway, we went on with that little argument for a while, and I got up and stomped my foot on the ground. I said, he may be slow, but he's going to be our center, and he was. And he has gone on and gone to heights in coaching, and we're proud of him. And these coaches here, I can't tell you what wonderful relationships it is for a coach and players, and I think every coach would agree with me. You just have such a wonderful thing, and then to see them now some 40 years later, and know that the feeling is still there is a wonderful thing. I thank each and every one of you who I had the opportunity to coach. Thank you. And I'm sorry for my little physical shortcoming. I went to a spine clinic some time ago, and they told me I was playing tennis at that time, and I'll be back playing tennis in a few weeks. That was about 3 years ago. I was going to share a few things that happened to me along the way started out in Sumter. I was born and raised, and that brings me to the opinion. I have two brothers here, and Bobby, hold your hand up, Bobby, and George. Bobby has spent most of his life in Sumter, except for when he was in the service. George spent most of his in the Marines, and his wife is with him, Irene, and we're delighted to have him. And my sons, Curtis and Artie are with us, and my daughter Kim. And they are about as good as you can get. A lot of the old friends, besides players, a lot of the old friends were fans in towns where we worked. And first time, well, I was thinking about the first time I ever knew anything about football. I went to Miller School in Sumter, which is on Miller Drive. We'll go through it, you can see it. And every day before school, all the guys gathered over across the street from the school, and we had a football game. And so one experience that I had was I was on one team, and the other team was kicking off. So I said, well, what do? He said, you run to that other field, other road over yonder, and when you get there, you got to score. So they kicked off, and I got the ball started one way, and I stopped and went back the other way, and I beat the rest of them to the road, so we scored. And I thought that was really something. And then later I went out for the high school team in Sumter in about the 8th grade, and the coach who had played in the pros, Larry Weldon, the coach said, I'm going to dress, you guys have been playing good, I'm going to dress y'all for the next home game. So we dressed, and after the game, my mother, and he gave us 2 tickets each. So after the game, my mother said, she said, Arthur, I was excited about you playing. She said, which one of the 20s were you? The coaches would understand that better than the fans. But, when you dress and guys down the line, you didn't have enough jerseys to fall to wear a new jersey, so you had to go back and get one out of that. And that reminds me of my first game at McCall, South Carolina, which is about 3 yards from the North Carolina line over in Baldwin County. Anyway, I took that job, and I enjoyed. I didn't have any assistant coaches. I coached them by myself. And on top of that, during the season, the principal coached the girls team. And so he got sick, and he sent word to me that he was sick and would not be able to coach the game for the girls, and I would have to coach them. Well, I never coached any girls. We had some pretty girls like most high schools. And so we went out to the game, and I, like always with the boys, I gave them a pep talk. And of course, what do you do after you have a pep talk and send them out on the field? You pat them on the back. Back. A little lower. So I was used to hitting those old boys in their rear ends and fire them up. And just about the time, and the principal is sick, but he's in the stands. And just about the time I said, I gave him this great talk and how excited he was to play in that. And now at that time I said, go get him. And I got about this far from that part of their body. Then I realized if I hit that girl where I'm thinking I'm going to hit, I'm going to be gone now. And then when I was growing up, before I started coaching, I played at Sumter High School, and I played running back and quarterback. And team, you know, even now, during the spring, usually the coaches, high school coaches, will send their best players that are seniors off to a college. And in those days, you could try out. So my coach sent me and about 4 or 5 other guys to PC to try out. So I went with them, and 2 of them really, I mean, one was an All-American, Joe Kirby. And so anyway, we all went up and tried out. After the tryout was over, Coach, Presbyterian coach, we all called each one of us in by ourselves, and he gave 5 of those guys scholarships. When he got to me, he didn't have any more scholarship money. And so one of our players was a guy named Joe Kirby. This is what teammates can do for you. Joe Kirby had 2 uncles to play at Presbyterian, and he was the best player we had was an All-American. And so anyway, they gave him Joe went back and talked to the Presbyterian coach. He said, Coach, there's 5 of us, and they decided that we were all going to go to PC. And you've given 4 of us a scholarship, and one doesn't have one. And of course, he had to tell me that I didn't have one. So anyway, Joe went back in and talked to him, and the coach called me back in, and he said, well, I've changed my mind. He said, we are making some bedrooms up above the gymnasium. Not very hot, I imagine. But anyway, we're making beds up there. And he said, I have found one for you. That'll be X number of dollars on the scholarship. And he said, when our guys go to college, their scholarship pays for their books. And he said, at the end of that semester, we put a big box there and they dropped the books in it. He said, you can go to that box and get your books. So he said, that's another little scholarship. And he said, another thing, I've got you a job in the dining room, you can wait on tables. And so he said, that's another little scholarship. Anyway, as it turned out, I ended up getting some scholarship, and I finished college, and I never, that was my senior year, I will have to tell you that I got a full scholarship, and had a good game.
Marty, did y'all talk about it? Yes. Okay. What to do? Time's up.
I would like to say that when I went to Newberry, my second job,
Oh, he's gonna go.
and I was familiar with Harvey Kirkland. And if I had one person in my career that taught me every inch about football, it was Harvey Kirkland. And whatever things we did at Newberry, whatever things we did wherever I went, it came from Harvey Kirkland. Our families became good friends. We'd go to the beach, and all these girls out sunbathing. Coach Kirkland's over there showing me how to play defensive end, where to put my left foot and right foot. Everything was important to him, and that was his football. And what a wonderful Christian man he was. But anyway, I think it's been a pleasure to be here. I'm proud of all of the